first graders, it's Mrs. Maris back today for some more math learning. So yesterday with Mrs. Markle, you guys worked on going through the whole chapter 6 review because remember we have finished working on all the new lessons and new learning for chapter 6. So we're just going to continue to do a little bit of practice to make sure that our brain remembers what we worked on in the beginning of this chapter because it's been a little while. So your assignment today in math is not to do any new learning, but is to review old learning. And you're asked to choose some homework pages in your workbook to complete as kind of practice from past chapters. So Mrs. Maris has chosen the first 3 lessons to review with you on the homework pages. If you don't want to go in this order, that's okay. You can work at your own pace, but this is the video that I'm going to provide for you today. So if you want to work along with me, that's what we're doing. We're starting with lesson 6.1 homework, which is on page 335. And then we're going to go ahead and work on lesson 6.2 homework, which is on page 341. And finally, we're going to work on lesson 6.3 homework, which is on page 347. And that's where we'll stop for today. And Mrs. Markle will do the next 3 with you tomorrow. Okay? So before we get started, I want to let you guys know that it will be best for you if you are utilizing your 120 chart. I have one right here on the computer, but remember you guys have that or should have it in your workbook. So it's going to be easier for you for these first couple lesson reviews to make sure you have that handy. So let's just dive right into it. You guys should be on page 335 in your chapter 6 workbook, and it's lesson 6.1 review homework. So the first problem says, use a counting chart, count forward, write the numbers. Now they just want us to count by 1 here. So in each one of these columns, all you need to do is you need to find the number on your 120 chart and then count on writing the numbers in the spots, okay? So the first one asks us to start at 40. So first I need to find my number 40. Here it is. And then remember, when we get to the end of the row, we go down. It would make sense if it went 39, 40, 41, 42, okay? So starting after 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46. Let's see if they want us to do all of those. So you're going to write in here, let Mrs. Maris get her pen, just to give you guys an example. And then you would write 41, 42, 43, and so on, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, okay? For the next one, you would start at 55, so let's go ahead and find 55 on there. Here it is, and you would count on from ones from there, writing that. Same thing with 37 and 98, okay? So for these first 4, it's going to be easiest for you to utilize that 120 chart. Now let's see what they have for number 5. It says use a counting chart, draw and write the numbers to solve. So we're still using our counting chart, but it's a story problem. It says the bag has 111 marbles. Draw more marbles, so there are 117 marbles in all. Write the numbers as you count, okay? So they want us to start at 111 and just count on from there. So we don't need to count all the way up to 111. So grab 111 with me, 111. And as we count on to 117, we're going to draw a marble each time, okay? So let me get my pen. So 111, and I'm going to draw 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, and 117. Now, I know my marbles don't look very circular, but it's kind of hard to write with this pen. But not only do they want you to draw the marbles as you count on, they want you to write the numbers. So we started at 111. Let's go back to the first one. 112 is a 1, a 1, and a 2. And remember, you can be using your hundreds chart to help you with this. 113, 114, 115, 116, almost there. I know it looks so messy. And 117. Okay? And then the last one says choose a number between 90 and 110. Write the number and then count forward to write the next 5 numbers. So I'm going to have you guys do that on your own because it's your choice of the number. But I'm just going to show you all the numbers you can choose from. Between 90 and 110 would be any number that Mrs. Maris has highlighted, okay? So you're going to start at one of those numbers and count on by ones from 5, and they want you to count on by ones five times, okay? And then write those numbers in order. All right? So that's what you guys are going to do on lesson 6.1, review homework on page 335. Mrs. Maris is going to move on to lesson 6.2. And you're still going to use your counting chart, but we're going to be counting by tens this time. So switch gears in your brain from counting by ones to counting by tens. Now remember when we did this lesson, we said that we can count by tens from any number. It does not just have to be 10, 20, 30, 40, like we're used to saying. And remember when we do that, we use the columns, which is counting up and down, to help us figure out what numbers come next, okay? So let's go ahead and look. The first one they want us to start with is number 1. So Mrs. Maris is going to go to my 120 chart and find 1. It's right there at the top. And remember, your column is up and down. Your row is side to side. So I'm going to start at 1. Then if I add 10, it's 11. 10 more, 21. 10 more, 31. 10 more, 41. 51, 61, 71, and so on. So to fill in that number on your sheet, you will just use this column. So let me start. So 1, our next number was 11. Let me zoom, there we go. 11, then 21. And remember, Mrs. Maris not pulling this out of her head. I'm using what we saw on the 100 chart. 31, 41, 51, 61, 71, 81, and 91. So if you guys go ahead and look at these 2-digit numbers, it makes sense. Every time we add 10, there's a 10, one more 10 in the tens place, and the 1 in the ones place stays the same, okay? All right, so you're going to do the same thing counting by tens for 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Remember, find the number and then go up and down in that column, okay? Not the row, to add 10 each time. Number 8. This is another word problem. It says, I am after 70, I am before 90. You say me when you count by tens. What number am I? Okay, after 70, but before 90. Let's go ahead and use our 120 chart to help us. So after 70, after would mean below or later than, but before 90. And you count me when you count by tens. So let's count by tens and see which numbers between those two. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. So I'm thinking it's the number 80. Is 80 after 70? Yes. But is 80 before 90? Yes. And is it in between those two when we count by tens? Yes, it is. So your answer is 80. Okay. And the last one in this page says use numbers to explain the pattern you see when you count forward by tens. So this sounds kind of tricky, but all they want you to do is pick a number, just like we did at the top, count by tens from it, using the column in your 120 charts, and describe the pattern that you see. So for example, the pattern in this one would be that the tens place increases by 1 each time, and the ones place stays the same. Okay, so you can pick any number, write those numbers, counting by 10, and then just describe it to a parent. All right, you guys, we are moving on to the very last one for today, which is lesson 6.3 practice homework on page 347. So you can probably go ahead and put away your hundreds chart for this because we're moving on to using the models to help us represent 100. Not 100, help us represent tens and ones, okay? So when we are looking at the first one, I want you guys to pay attention to the 10 frame that's full. We know that's one group of 10, and then the ones below. So remember when we used the model to show 3 different ways to represent a number. That's what we're going to do. The first way they want us to represent it is by showing how many tens and how many ones. So we already know that there's one group of 10 because we see a full 10 frame. Whenever we see a full 10 frame, it's a group of 10, okay? So we don't have to count this whole thing. We can say 10. So there's one group of 10s here. And now let's count the ones to see how many ones we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this number has one group of 10 and 8 ones. Okay. Now they want us to write the addition problem that would show this. So remember, you are not going to write 1 plus 8 down here because this number 1 is not representing just 1. It's representing 110. So we're going to write 10 plus 8. And what's 10 plus 8? Well, let's count on and see. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So your number that's represented here is the number 18. And we can show it 4 different ways. We could show it with the model. We could write it as 1, 10, and 8 ones. We could show it as 10 plus 8, or we could just write that number 18. Okay? Now down here, you're going to do the same thing, but you're going to write what they say, okay? So let's listen. Rob has 7 ones. Nick has 5 ones. They put all their ones together. What number did they make? So they gave us a 10 frame, and Mrs. Maris is going to use 2 different colors. One color for Rob's ones and one color for Nick's ones, okay? So Rob's ones are going to be blue, and he had 7 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So now that I have 7 ones in the 10 frame, I need to change my color to show Nick's 5 ones. So Nick's are going to be red. Let's move back in. And I'm going to count on 5 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I see a full 10 frame, and then I see some more. How many 10s do we have? Just 1. And how many ones? 1, 2. So 1 10 and 2 ones. Remember, this is not 1. We're going to write 10 plus 2 And then the final number, we can either know what 10 plus 2 is or count on. So 10, 11, 12. So you guys just did with me 4 ways to show the number 12 in a model, in tens and ones, in an addition sentence, and just in the number. Okay? So the one at the bottom says show 12 in 4 different ways. Use words, pictures, and numbers. Okay? So you guys have already seen a couple ways up here, and they want you to think of any other ways you can. So that's a challenge problem for you on your own. Thank you for working hard with me on lesson 6.1 review, 6.2 review, and 6.3 review. And tomorrow, you guys will be working on more homework review of the same in chapter 6. So happy math learning for today. And I will wish you well. And bye for now.